kicking things off with the news. PlayStation VR 2 launches in February. Are you ready for the price?
I know the price.
$550.
So for those of you keeping count, that is
Sony insane?
More
I'm
than
sorry.
The PS5. Look,
listen.
It's yeah. No, what?
It's crazy. It is crazy. I get it. This thing is really advanced. It's got like some of the best lenses in a VR headset. On this thing, these like pancake lenses. It's got a really high resolution. It's got controllers included this time. People forget that when comparing the price to the old one, because the old one didn't have the Move controllers or the camera. This one doesn't need a camera because obviously it's got the inside-out tracking, so cameras are beaming shit out in front of you and picking up the controllers.
Oh my goodness.
I still don't understand this. A few years ago, I thought we had turned a corner in VR when Facebook, at the time Oculus, released the Quest and then followed that up with the Quest 2. It was like, VR is affordable. Kind of accessible.
Yeah.
VR, you can buy an all-in-one VR headset for $300, the Quest.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to, you can hook that thing up to a PC, or you can fucking crack it wide open if you really wanted to and start doing weird things with it. Because it is it's just a device that can connect to multiple platforms.
Yeah.
PlayStation VR 2 is, by nature, a completely closed ecosystem.
Yeah.
You cannot connect it to a PC, which I think if they gave you the ability to do that would have been a big benefit, because firstly, they could have put their VR games on PC, and then it could have maybe been compatible with a bunch of, VR games on Steam. So maybe if it plugged into Steam's VR API, figure that stuff out. It would make it more enticing.
Yeah.
But the fact that it can only work with a PS5, you need a PS5, a $500 console.
Yeah.
And then you're beholden to, firstly, the pricing and whatever games come out for this thing on PS5, which can then have their support yanked unceremoniously, just like the first PlayStation VR, and then have it completely deprecated like they have here, where Sony said, hey, PSVR 1 games cannot work on PSVR 2. And yes, a lot of devs are doing the work to bring their game over and then make it available for free, but that's not a rule, what I mean?
That's just, Well, so I wanted to ask, so how will this connect to the PS5? Because it's a lot less cables.
With a USB-C cable.
Is it not possible to crack it, whatever, quotes unquote, on PC? Do you not think somebody will figure out?
I suspect someone's going to figure that out.
Yeah, because I think the last PSVR, that setup, you needed a degree in cable management and all sorts of nonsense to get that thing
and it
running.
Wasn't worth it. Even when PSVR, the first PSVR required use with the camera and the Move controllers, so setting those things up on PC as well just didn't make sense.
Yeah. But I mean,
I completely agree with you. I don't think it will even be a few months. Someone's going to figure this out.
Someone will figure it out, and then maybe then it'll be interesting because you don't need a PS5 to get a really good PS.
Maybe then you'll be able to play Half-Life Alyx, because it doesn't seem like that game is fucking coming to PSVR 2. Like the launch. This is part of the problem. So they announced that they are going to be, what is it, like 20-something games.
I just realized I'm on the wrong news thing here.
There's going to be like 20-something games at launch. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. I have to just point this out. $550 includes no games.
Nice.
If you want the bundle with that Horizon Call of the Mountain game, which for some reason isn't included in Sony's list of launch titles, which is strange. Like, anyway, that's now an additional $50. $600 if you want the game. You want the charging station for the controllers? $50 per controller. There's 2.
Oh, does it? Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Look, it's interesting because I'm completely with you. This is ludicrously expensive.
It's obscene. I'm sorry. It's just Sony wants the idea of PlayStation VR, and this is not Sony's problem to solve, but the idea was always this is the accessible way to get into VR. Because at the time when PSVR 1 came out, the Oculus Rift then was around the same price, but also required a very beefy computer.
Yeah.
Valve stuff has always been obscenely expensive. I think the Valve Index is still retailing for $1,000. Like, it's crazy expensive, and then requires a PC.
Yeah.
So this was always like, oh, you've got a console. Here's a VR headset that connects to. The fact that the VR headset is more than the console that powers it is crazy to me. Like, it just.
Yeah.
I expected a high price because of the specs, but this is way beyond that, I think.
I think the idea here is that if you put it like that, okay, so, if you want to get Valve's VR, you're going to need their expensive headset and a PC. Whereas here, like for both, to get a PS5 and the VR, you're looking at the same price just for the Valve headset, if that makes sense.
No, I get that, yeah.
But then I think I'm sure their thought here is like, okay, well, there are 2 million, or it's not 2 million, however many people have PS5s. You've already coughed up, half the cost. Some people will be like, yeah, it's expensive, but like, I'm paying $550, not $1,050. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. The overall cost is still a lot. But I think the mindset of the marketing peeps at Sony is targeting the mindsets of people who have a PS5 going like, I already have the PS5. What is it in me to go $550? It's still expensive. I'm with you.
I still think it's within, then it's their responsibility to sell this tech. It's not, if you're like, cool, you've made half the investment, now make basically
another one.
repurchase a PS5 so that you can play this limited subset of VR games. And I think what irks me is that none of the games that they've at least announced so far, because they've only announced like half their launch lineup, none of them really scream PSVR 2. They're all available, most of them, all available on PC for play on a range of other headsets that a lot of people might own that are a lot cheaper.
Well, I want to ask,
why do you need this?
On that, so PS Plus for the last 3 years, whatever, always offered like a PSVR game every month.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So if I redeemed all those games in the hope that one day I'll get PSVR or PSVR 2, are those not going to work with this headset?
None of them work here.
I'm not going to get a PSVR
literally none
headset
of them work here. And if Sony follows the sort of mantra they have with PS Plus games and upgrades, any of those games that have free PSVR 2 upgrades will not be applicable to PS Plus titles, because that's not how it works. You don't own the game.
Yeah. It's weird.
So like, it's such a hard sell. Like, I really wanted this thing. Like, I really, really wanted because I've got the first Quest, and I think the first Quest is great, but I don't use that thing much anymore. I played Half-Life Alyx. I've played a bunch of Beat Saber. I've dabbled in the small, interesting little VR experiments here and there that are only available on PC still.
Yeah.
There is nothing here, at least from a game perspective, that makes me look at this thing and go, yeah, I could make $550 work. I'll make it work for that game. And I think for a lot of people, that game is Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
And a lot of people expect that to be at the launch, and it does not seem to be the case. It might not come at all.
Yeah.
It's really up to Valve if they really want to do that or not. So, if you scroll through the launch games, they're bad. None of them are interesting. I mean, Sony leads with a sort of spiritual successor to Until Dawn. That's like on rails horror shooter, which a lot of people liked, but that was like 7 years ago. VR has moved way past this. You're on a trolley and you get to shoot shit. Like, I'm not paying $550 for that.
Yeah. Well.
So yeah.
Hate to.
I don't know. I don't understand it. I suspect local pricing will be.
Oh my gosh.
Bad. Because if you think about the fact that, okay, we don't get our consoles from $1 price, but this is just a good point of comparison. Is when we got the PS5, it was $500. We got it here locally for 12,000 rand. That was 2 years ago. The exchange rate has wildly changed since then.
It's been
with respect
crazy,
to the euro, the pound, and the dollar. It's weakened across the board, like significantly. So $550, I would be shocked if we get anywhere under 15K.
Yeah, I think 15K is what the recommended
I'm sorry.
price would be.
Again, take that into consideration. That's 27,000 rand to play PlayStation VR2.
I mean,
Sorry.
it'll be
That's
worth
crazy.
it when I can play Until Dawn on Rails.
No,
I
it's
mean,
crazy. It's great.
Not Until Dawn. You know what
You're
I mean?
approaching the ludicrous prices of an NVIDIA GPU. The shit that people point at and go, that is crazy. No one wants to do that. Nah,
that is
sorry.
hilarious, though, because that is kind of a good segue into our next news piece, which is AMD's next-gen RX 7900 XTX and XT GPU start at $899 and launch on December 13th.
Very excited about this.
Look at this man's face. Where's my happy face emoji?
I'm excited because competition works. Aren't you happy?
Yeah.
Competition is great. So yeah, I mean, the NVIDIA launch kind of went as expected. The 4090 came. It's still selling. It's still obscenely expensive, I think. And I think NVIDIA feels emboldened by not having really tough competition, that they can kind of do whatever they want.
By the flame of ambition.
You had Jensen out on stage saying that Moore's Law is dead and that they are actually being forced into this pricing battle. And AMD comes out and is like, nah, check this shit out.
Yeah,
and they're launching their flagship GPU for $200 less than NVIDIA's 4080, which is not even their flagship. And granted, AMD made no qualms about saying they are going to be better than the 4090, but they certainly seem to think they can trade blows and beat the 4080 for $200 less, which is a big, big deal. So yeah, these cards are out on December 13th. There's only 2 cards out at the time. It's, these names, man. The 7900 XTX, which is $1,000. And then the 7900 just XT, which is $900, so $100 cheaper. And it seems the main difference between the two is the bigger one has 24 gigs of memory, smaller one is 20. They actually have slower memory than the NVIDIA cards, and this kind of makes sense to me. There are no games that are even coming close to utilizing even AMD's slower memory that they've chosen to use. So why pay the premium for memory that you are actually not going to, at least for gaming, that you're not going to utilize. So yeah, I think AMD's made some very smart choices. Yeah, they've gone with like a chiplet design on their board, which allows them to use different generations of hardware, which keeps costs down and keeps power draw in check. So yeah, when reviews come out, when this thing's coming out on the 13th of December, so when reviews come out, I'm very
around the corner.
Curious to see how it performs. Yeah, I do think it's still going to get smoked when it comes to ray tracing performance, because AMD was basically saying they're getting 50% more performance, which if you just apply that to their current numbers, means they're still well behind NVIDIA.
50% on 0 is still 0 AMD.
Yeah, essentially. But who knows? I'm not sure. I think the days of NVIDIA being the days of you go NVIDIA because DLSS are kind of gone, because AMD's caught up with FSR 2.0 to a degree. It's still not as good, but it's like good enough that it's not really much of an issue anymore. I think it's just the ray tracing performance, which is a big sticking point for some people. But if you don't really give a shit about that, then you could pick up a $900 card and get performance close to a $1,300 card.
Yeah,
$200 card.
Even on the ray tracing thing, like I think given enough time, AMD will just get closer and closer to
eventually.
Yeah,
eventually,
which is interesting. Until NVIDIA come out with ray tracing 2.0 or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, listen, I think that's getting there, and especially with Unreal Engine 5, the sort of ray tracing support that engine has is kind of obscene. So that's where NVIDIA's cards are going to shine. But we also got to remember that game design, for the most part, is dictated by what is possible on console.
Yeah.
And the consoles are running on now older gen AMD hardware that is pretty bad at ray tracing. So like, I think you will get the exceptions, like Cyberpunk 2077 is an exception of a game that was clearly devved on PC and then paired back for console. Yeah. But 99% of the time, the opposite is true. And I don't think that's really going to change. So will you use your super powerful thing for this amazing ray tracing? Probably not. Yeah. Would it look good? Absolutely. Yeah. But is it worth $1,600?
Probably not. But you're right. It's up to you. We don't judge.
Yeah. Unless you buy PSVR2, then I judge you.
What news you want to bounce to? Should we touch on...
Tell me about this Kojima nonsense.
So I don't know about this Kojima nonsense other than for the last 45 years, it seems that Kojima's been working on a horror game called Overdose. And as more time goes past, more stuff seems to be leaking to the point where I'm just like, just announce it. So we all know it's official. It's cool.
One could say we're overdosing on leaks.
But I think last night, some footage leaked of the game. By footage, I mean secondhand, low quality 90s camcorder footage, probably.
Literally, someone recording it with a phone, recording another phone. Also, the guy had no shirt on.
Which has since been scrubbed by, off the internet as much as it can be. But I think one of the biggest nuggets of information that came from this latest leak is that you're going to have to help me with this name here because I don't know if I'm saying it right. Margaret Qualley, who was Mama from Death Stranding, is pretty key in this game, it seems, as her character is seen walking through the halls of an abandoned building with creepy noises in the background and brief flashes of what could be a monster or a killer. So I don't know if she's the main character or a prominent role, but she is in this game. So Kojima's still not skimping on getting these A-tier actors and actresses for his games. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad he's working on a horror game. I think given what he did with PT,
think it would be cool. Yeah.
I'd love to see what he can do, given with an actual AAA release horror game. Let's hope things don't sour when he leaves his own company to go form another company to make something else. Like, let's hope this horror game gets over the finish line.
There's an interesting tidbit here in the Polygon piece. It says, based on the footage, which is filmed off screen twice and includes a picture-in-picture view of a woman playing the game, it seems that Overdose might be a mobile game, or at least playable on mobile devices. Well, this would be a bit of a departure for Kojima. Kojima Productions is working on a game for Xbox Studios utilizing Microsoft's cloud gaming technology. Now, that's what I wanted to know was, is Overdose the Xbox cloud game, or are they separate?
Yeah, I think you were saying before we started recording, you wonder if this isn't just the Xbox exclusive.
That makes me think it is, because if it's on mobile, and he's trying to render I don't see Kojima making a mobile game traditionally. I see him using the cloud to use mobile in some weird way. That makes sense to me.
What's interesting, so I've been listening to his podcast. I don't know if I've actually spoken about this on our podcast, but in one of his episodes, he said the context was things he sort of wants to do, how he wants to kind of innovate games. And one thing he said is he would love to make it that the sound a player experiences is unique in every instance. So it's not sound. So it's not like the music or the ambient sound. So it's not like an original soundtrack playing. It's a thing of, the player opens a door and the soundtrack reacts to that, for example. It's like a very bad example. But he said that's not possible, or at least it wasn't, before cloud technology was a thing. So I wonder if that's not something, given a horror game, it could be something to make sure that every player has a unique sounding game as well, like distinct and unique to their playthrough, on this cloud-based horror game. It could be a thing. So yeah, that's interesting. Like he's very good at innovating. So I'm curious to see if that is a thing that we see, maybe in this game, if it is a cloud-based game, which it could be. So yeah, I guess we'll hear more though.
Yeah, I'm keen to hear more. Curious to hear more about that. Should we fly through some smaller ones here? The Last of Us is getting... Well, The Last of Us HBO series got a release date, and it's quite soon.
It's January, I think.
Yeah, January. Premiering 15th in the US, 16th in the rest of the world. And this is HBO, so it's weekly. Obviously, it's not all at once. But super, super keen to give this a watch. That first trailer was moody in all the right ways. So yeah, hella keen. Keen for Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey to make me cry.
I'm ready for Pedro Pascal and Baby Grogu to make a guest appearance.
Baby Grogu.
It's funny. He's kind of playing the same role here, right? As the Mandalorian. He's a dude.
Kind of. He's just shepherding some child from one place to another, protecting them, kind of, yeah.
Nice.
Prepared all his life for these roles.
I guess just sticking with the PlayStation theme. PlayStation Plus has lost nearly 2 million subscribers months after the relaunch. However, revenue is up, if I'm not mistaken, by 10%, which tells us that there are less people paying for PS Plus, but the same people are paying slightly more. On average. I guess it's to be expected with COVID. Gaming across the board went up because people couldn't go outside. Now people are going outside and touching grass, not playing games. So, but even when you look at the numbers, it's like it dropped from 47 million to 45 million. I'm like, those are still big numbers, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not to say that, oh my God,
PlayStation's
PS Plus has no subscribers anymore. I do think both things can be true here, where yes, in a way, the launch of the new PS Plus tiers worked because it got people to upgrade. Yeah, but at the same time, I think it got a lot of people to realize they don't need PS Plus. Yeah, and that's 100%. Where you're seeing, you know, in combined with the COVID stuff, the NPD has kind of said that, you know, across all markets, this is going to happen because COVID's ending. But I do think the launch of PS Plus was confusing and strange and put a lot of people off.
It's the naming for me.
It's the naming.
PS Plus will forever be confusing. In my mind. Tier 1 through 3 is PS Plus, PS Plus Plus, and PS Plus Plus Plus. Because I can't remember what the hell the names are.
I think the big thing now is the next year. Like how do they sustain growth or sustain what they have? Like if people feel like they're not being served the games they want,
they'll bounce.
You know, on the higher tiers, they're going to bounce very quickly. You know, because what's the point?
And is it just me, or does it feel like PS Plus gets, you know, their Game Pass version, the PlayStation version of Game Pass? It feels like it gets 5 or 6 games a month. Or at least that I've seen like publicly announced, like coming new to PS Plus, whatever. Whereas Game Pass, it always feels like there are weekly drops almost. So every second week there's like a new batch of games. Way more. So like, I don't know, you know, you're right. In the long run, will people eventually be like, you know, PlayStation Plus, whatever. Yeah. It's not giving me the offering I want, you know? And especially for the higher tier, because the higher tier is the one that gives you classic games and stuff like that. If that shit's not being updated, or, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people subscribed, and you know the way people subscribe, they go for long. They're not going to do month to month. They'll be like, I'll buy a year of this. Yeah. So people who bought a year of the highest tier, if they get to the end and they're like, wow, I played no classic games, or I streamed no games from PS3. So I'm just gonna, they'll just downgrade. Like they won't leave PS Plus, I don't think, but the revenue will drop. Will go down, So I'm curious to see what, you know, how this is reported in a year from now. That'll be the big test for Sony. So I think this happened last night. So the Overwatch Grand Finals happened. Some esports, and they announced a new tank hero called Ramattra. You like Symmetra, get ready for Ramattra, which seems to be a theme with naming, because this is a Omnic tank. From you mean like Zenyatta? Zenyatta. Oh wait, who did I say? Zenyatta. You said. Oh, Symmetra. My bad. That's Symmetra. Not at all. I was like, completely different character. My bad. But maybe there's a link there. I don't know. From the very brief reading I've done, this was all we got was a cinematic, and this tank will have 2 different forms. Don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it's one of those things where, you know, you get a set of abilities in one form and another set of abilities in the other form. So that's cool. I'm quite curious to see at what cadence Blizzard releases heroes now, because, you know, it's a free-to-play game. They've got season passes, and I think every season is going to have a new hero, which means the cadence of the hero releases is going to be somewhat quicker, I think. Yeah, Overwatch 2
I think that's what it needs.
played a bit this week. It's in a much better state. Queue times aren't as ludicrously long. It's good.
Okay,
fun.
that's good.
Queuing for a damage or tank roll, which when at launch was 8 to 11 minutes, was like 5 minutes max this week, which is still long, but it's a lot better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Nice.
Last piece of news: A Plague Tale Requiem has passed 1 million sales, and the devs celebrate. Apparently,
Pretty great.
but I think what you mentioned, what's quite interesting about this doesn't include Game Pass.
Yeah.
So good on the devs, because I thought, like, not at all in a bad way, but I thought because it's on Game Pass, the sales would be a lot lower, because why would you buy this game if you can play it on PC and Xbox Game Pass? But it seems to have sold a million copies, so good on them.
And pretty quickly. According to this article, the first one only passed 1 million within a year.
Yeah, this is within the first month. So is it a month? Yeah, it's about a month now. So good on them. That's very cool. Still have to finish the game myself, but visually, it's really good. That's it. I think. Any other news you want to touch on? No.
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
That is news for this week.